Let's talk changing a tire. It's a little dark right now. Maybe I did that on purpose because tires never go flat when under ideal conditions. So if you have a flat tire, obviously it's going to be a little lower, so your jack won't have as much clearance. So in your car, and there's a couple things you'll want to check right now. One is my spare tire at the proper pressure? Doesn't do you any good to have a spare tire that's not at the proper pressure. As you can see, I need to put some air in my spare. And if your tire's not inflated, you'll end up using one of these in the dark in scary places. I'll do another video on how to check tire pressure. The other thing is that you have a jack and a lug wrench in your car. If you don't have those, you won't be able to change a tire. Changing a tire is not that hard to do. You'll want to find the right place to pull off. Even if it ruins your tire and your rim, you don't want to be doing this on a thin shoulder on the highway. That's a recipe for dying. We don't want to do that. Okay, first thing we're going to do, you'll actually want to do this once, just so you know how, because it will always be under the worst conditions when this happens. So it's about 6 a.m. Hit some debris on my way to work this morning. Immediately stuff felt kind of different, so I pulled off the freeway in a parking lot, changing out a tire. Good times. So look at your jack. My jack is designed, there's a little rail under here, and I'll show you when I put the jack under there. There's that rail, and that rail is designed for this lip to sit in. So what we're going to do is just stick that under this rail right here. You're just going to want to twist the jack up until it goes into place. And you want that, make sure that that lip is what goes in place. See how that lip is in place? That's what you want. Okay, once you've got that, then you will want to have the brake on. Okay, now before you get the tire all the way off, this is really important, otherwise you'll be letting it back down. Before you get the tire all the way off, you'll want to loosen your lug nuts. So, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You want to loosen your lug nuts just enough that, because once you have the jack, once the jack has the car off the ground, the tire will want to spin. Less so in the rear, because that's where the parking brake's at, but it will want to spin. So now we can raise up the car. We'll just keep cranking away till, and what you'll see is the suspension here will go up. All right, we're all the way off. Now what we can do, and just undo the lug nuts. Depending on how good you got them loosened, you can do them by hand. I like to leave one of the top ones in place. When I was in high school, somebody didn't like me very much. They'd always put nails behind my tires. So right after I started driving, I think I had like 13 flat tires in 1 year. So I got really good at this. And then, last of all, just want to do that. Okay. So now, pull the tire off. I like to stick it underneath the car, so if it did fall, it wouldn't land on my brakes. but that's up to you. Then you would get your spare. If you have the donut spare, again, it won't be nearly as big. Then we're going to line up the studs. Once you get them lined up, go ahead, put the top one in, just loose for now. That'll keep kind of everything where it needs to be. Then go ahead and put a bottom one. So I like to do a star pattern. That way everything gets tightened evenly. And it's about this time on a dark desert highway where you realize you're missing the lug nut. That's super important that you don't misplace those. You can drive with less missing one, but it's not optimal. I would never recommend it. Okay, so now we're just going to start in the star pattern. See how that tire wants to move? That's why we don't tighten it or loosen it up in the air. That's good. Now we can just let it down till the tire is touching. Once the tire is touching the ground, then we're just going to tighten everything up the rest of the way. You definitely want to use a torque wrench when you get someplace where you have a torque wrench. You won't have one on the highway probably. And see how I'm pulling up? That actually is not the best way. The best way is to do it so you're pushing down. That way you can just use your weight instead of your back. And then do it one more time. And if you're not sure you got them all, 100% sure, do it one more time after that. And that's how you change a tire.